Hey, welcome, Fins Faithful, to another episode of the Fins Faithful podcast and 3 Wide Wednesday. Miami Dolphins riding high, winners of 3 straight, 4 out of their last 5. But always, the record doesn't tell the full story because no storyline looms larger right now than the one surrounding Tua Tagovailoa. His play has dipped, the questions are getting louder, and something real feels like it shifted. So what happened to Tua, and more importantly, what does this mean for the franchise staring down major decisions in this offseason at the head coach, the general manager, and yes, the quarterback. So to break it all down, I'm glad and happy to announce we're joined by a very special guest. We're joined by award-winning Sun Sentinel sports columnist, to me, the best in the business, and author Dave Hyde. Dave, thanks for joining us this evening, man. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me, George. Great to be with you. Talk a little Dolphin.
Yeah, always a lot to talk about in Dolphins Nation.
Never stops.
So let's start positive here, Dave. Let's go positive. We mentioned at the top here, 3 of the last 4, 4 of the last 5. After the 2-6 start, this is the second year this has happened. What's real here? What do we make of this little run here? Is it opponent? Is it they figured the running game out? What they found an identity? What do you think is kind of the secret sauce here to this turnaround?
Well, I think they've a few things. First of all, they got their feet under them a little. You know, the 0-3 start, and then 1-6-2. You know, the season could have gone just continued that way. Okay, so they got their feet under them, and they realized how they want to play. And I think Mike McDaniel found a better identity for them offensively, in that they're running the ball more. HN is, as Mike said after the game, that we're relying on him. Okay, and that's clear. But then defensively too, you remember the season started up. The Colts and the Patriots scored their first 10 possessions on the Dolphins defense. Then you had guys running through the Dolphins for a few games there. Was it? I can't even remember. The Chargers, Vidal, and then Nico Dowdle for Carolina. I mean, they were running career highs against the Dolphins. So what's happened? A couple things. The main one is guys are, in talking to some of the people there, guys are being much more disciplined in just following assignments, running the gaps, winning the gaps. And it's amazing to say discipline and all that matters, but it does. The third thing, and this is, at some point, this is to me the most important thing. You see the young guys develop. You see Zeke Biggers have a sack. He beat a double team to have half a sack in the last game. And so now you have 3 young defensive linemen in the interior who are developing. I mean, nobody's come through a rookie year like a Zach Thomas or a Jason Taylor or anything like that, but you're seeing development. So I guess those would be the 3 big things for me, what's going on right now.
Yeah, you mentioned some great points. By the way, 3-0 without Grier and Phillips. But I must say, it's probably more to do with Phillips, than Grier. I don't know if it has much to do with the people say the curse of Chris Grier, but 3-0 without those guys. What did you make? I guess we haven't talked since then the trade deadline, the Phillips move. What have you heard about that, and kind of has that impacted the defense?
Well, I love Jalen Phillips. I thought he was from the rookie year. I thought he was the exact guy you want to develop behind. He's not only big and strong and edge rusher, but the way he carried himself is how you wanted a leader to carry himself and the team to. That's what the guys you wanted to build with. So then he had the couple injuries that made this upcoming contract tricky. So I get why they traded him. And I'm a little mystified because I was told, maybe that trade led into what I'm talking about, more disciplined play and all that. But it's just at some point the defense figured out, the guys said, okay, we better play, do our assignments and go that route. But for whatever reason, and look, I haven't seen what Jalen's done the last couple games, but he started off pretty good in Philadelphia. He's a good player. Vic Fangio knows how to use him. I hope he stays healthy because I really liked him.
Yeah, and chat, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, little bell, subscribe. Send your question in for Dave. We'll answer them in a few. You mentioned this kind of new identity. I don't know if I call it yet a new identity, but they're running more than they're passing. We'll get into Tua. Don't worry, we're going to get into Tua. But is this kind of – do you think Mike made a mistake in the beginning? Because to me, his specialty is the way he designs run plays. Not the pass concepts to me are nothing like really out of the ordinary. You have Waddle, you have Hill. Things happen, they create gravity. But should he have built this thing? Because it almost seems like he came in to be the coach of Tua Tagovailoa, not the Dolphins, and he was kind of job to get him right. Do you think where it went wrong is maybe this is the way he should have started? Build the line, build the defense, kind of San Francisco type, and the quarterback, just the game manager, which I think Tua can do. I mean, we have questions now. But do you think that's where maybe he went wrong in the beginning?
Well, looking back, it looks like mistakes were made. Mistakes were made. And the question is, and I've never been able to, I thought Mike and Chris Grier were joined at the hip. Okay. And does a new coach coming in have say to get to pull the Tyreek Hill deal and draft? So who was behind that? I think that was more Chris's doing than Mike's. And Mike, I remember talking to Mike after they beat Washington and talking to him about this was a couple years ago, the previous Washington win up in Washington, not Madrid, about whether he built his offense because he had this vision of speed or he had these talented players with speed and said, okay, this is how I need to build the offense. And it was the latter, he said, that he looked at who he had and this is what I got to do. Now, to your point, I do think he fell too much in love with it. And one of the things Mike's really good at is innovation. The cheat motion with Tyreek Hill that other teams follow. And now what he's done with Daniel Brumskill in the running game, and sort of a necessity. They didn't have a tight end in some regard, and so he said, well, let's do this. But it's like they've stumbled upon something really good for what they want to do with this offense, and so long-winded way to say, yeah, that mistakes were made, but when you have Tyreek Hill, when you're paying him that, when you have Jalen Waddle, when you're paying him that much money, those are usually, you've made a decision that you're going to run the offense through them. And Tua, those three guys that are paying the most money. So, but who's your best player? Devon Achane. So they're figuring out how to get him the ball. Yeah,
and I agree. We talk about the 23, 20, the first 4 years of Mike kind of split it in two. I think the 23 year, it's kind of like the Wildcat, Dave. They caught teams by surprise, right? I think, and then everybody caught on. So I think it's not misleading, but I think it's almost like we were talking about with this Brunskill stuff. Eventually, teams are going to catch up to it, and you're going to have to adjust. Do you think it's kind of screwed? People are looking too much of that 23 thing. Why can't we get back to that? Well, they get paid too on the other side. They figure you out,
Yeah, I remember after the Denver game, that 70-point game against Denver, and Vic Fangio came in the next press conference he had that week, and I asked him about what he thought of the 70 points, and he sees this offense every day, and he said, let's just calm down a little over what was done, and let's let this offense play out over the season. And I said, no, we're not going to do that because it's too much fun.
We haven't seen this before.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
But his point is taken. It's pretty much what you said. Give the defenses a little time to see what's going on here, and really what looking back, that offense very good against bad defenses, but against defenses with talent and scheme and ability to. I remember Mike saying once, Bill Belichick, he'd never seen this before. Bill Belichick dropped coverage into the exact places the Dolphins wanted to throw, as if saying, yeah, go ahead and try to throw. I know where you want to throw. We're not going to let you throw there. You're going to have to find something. And he goes, it made no sense schematically for a defense to do that. But Belichick was just saying, I know how you want to run your. So again, to your point, yes, I think defense has caught up with that. And as with the Wildcat, trickeration only works for a while. And it still comes down to the fundamentals. Can your offensive line get the hard yard when they need to? Can your quarterback make the big pass when they need to? That type of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think we haven't talked since Grier's gone? I want to talk to you about Grier and kind of your thoughts on his tenure here and his firing. But do you think this if Mike, will this be enough to save his job? They say to get to 8-9 wins. Do you think that's enough to save Mike's job? Because it seems to me like Stephen Ross on the surface loves him and wants everything, make it easy on him and bring him back. Do you think 8 or 9 wins, Mike, that will save Mike's job, or it take more than that, like to win out?
He's got to convince one guy, and that one guy wants to be convinced. Okay,
yes.
Steve Ross, when he fired Grier, said he wants, Mike's going to be given every chance to keep the job in ways, and I was even told it's not going to come down to wins and losses. It's going to come down to process. How the team looks, how it prepares, how it plays, and I'm.
That's setting you up to. We want to bring him back, even if we win 7 or 8.
Absolutely. And why do they want to bring him back? In part, a big part, I was told, to his contract. Okay, they don't want to throw write a $99 million check to somebody going off. Yeah. They want to get some value for that, and so just think about this in practical terms. You're bringing Tua back. He's $54 million salary cap hit, $99 million. If you let him go this year, you can release him June 1st, and it's 67 this year and 30. It still comes out to 99. You're just splitting it up a little, easing the pain. But you tell a coach, say you fire Mike, but you tell a coach Tua's coming back. How many coaches, you're gonna, and then you also say, or you tell a general manager. So you're narrowing the field of talent by, the other thing is the GM's linked to this too, this decision, in that if you keep Mike and you keep Tua, you're basically saying Champ Kelly is the interim GM. He's most likely going to be back too, because again, for that same thinking, what GM on the rise who's trying to make his career would want to say, unless they just love Mike and they love Tua, they're going to say, no, I don't want that situation. So, whether, it really is irrelevant whether you or I think Mike should or shouldn't be back. Steve Ross is the one. He's the only one who has to be convinced, and he wants to be convinced that Mike should come back.
Yeah. We'll talk about, since you brought that up, I argue with, by the way, my co-host Jason Sarni's work schedule. He couldn't join us, but we argue back and forth all the time. He wants Alec Hallaby from the Eagles, and he goes, well, let him come in and decide if Mike will be here. Now, I say, Jason, you're not going to get the guy in the building unless the slate is clean. Unless Mike's not here, because if you're asking him, hey, you could come in and clean house if you want. If he's the right GM and he's that quality, he's going to clean house anyway. So, you're not going to get the guy because they're kind of at a crossroads. They got 3 plans. Do the half measure, get rid of Kelly, keep Mike, but who's your GM going to be? To me, it's a Dennis Hickey, Champ Kelly situation. You're not going to get the top candidate. Reset the whole thing like I think they should, or bring them both back and run it one more year in 27. Those are your 3. It's a crossroad. It's an interesting decision what they got to do. But you agree, you're not getting the top candidates unless they're their choice of quarterback and coach. Like, you
No,
can't.
right. I mean, nobody wants to handcuff it, and you can say, "Oh, we'll give you an extra year on your contract." Well, let me tell you, Brian Flores was. Think of his first year. We're going to tank, but everything will be fine. We're going to be good, but you know, he wasn't fired after that first year. I get it, but battle lines were drawn inside the franchise by the end of that first year because of what it played out, and that's what a GM doesn't want to. Why would you want to step into that when you don't have to?
Yeah, that's, to me, if you're gonna bring Mike back into one more year, you might as well keep Champ, because I think he's probably the best tier, or he's in that tier of Candy, because he's a legitimate guy. Champ Kelly's well-known running. So I think, to me, they should blow the whole thing up already. But if they're gonna do it, bring back. What did you think of Grier? Were you surprised he went first, or were you surprised that Grier went that quick, or you thought it was gonna be opposite, or you knew it was gonna be Grier before Mike?
Well, I was calling him general manager for life because I thought for years, I was like, what has he done to he can't, they aren't winning, and his decisions are suspect, and yet he keeps staying around. I mean, and look, I have nothing against the guy. I'm just, but in sports, typically, I mean, 10 years running the draft, and you don't have a championship roster. You're not even that. You're not moving toward a championship. It really, that's what you want a franchise to do. Not everybody's going to win that, but you want to be moving towards something. And I never saw the. Look, I was surprised when Adam Gase was fired, and I remember the press conference with Steve Ross. Or not, Adam Gase was fired. That was really a mutual parting, because Adam Gase didn't want anything to do with the tanking, and the Dolphins had decided we're going to go tank. And my question to Steve Ross was, why are you putting Chris Grier in charge of this? Because and he said, oh, he's respected and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But to me, there was nothing in his portfolio at that time that this, just think, taking on a tank job where you're going to, everything falls to the personnel side at that point. And you're either going to go in the Hall of Fame because you hit on all your draft picks, or you're going to go out as they did, which they didn't hit on enough. And they hit on some draft picks, but then the self-scouting of the team, who to keep, who not to keep, what type of team do we want to have? Then you go out and you spend all the money on Tyreek and Jalen Ramsey, and so all of a sudden you got headaches in the locker room. I always thought a good general manager would have put an end to a lot of that, or some of it, or at least had a direction to follow. And I really didn't think they had a winning direction. So to your point, I was, if anything, I was surprised Chris lasted as long as he did.
Oh, you and me both. I didn't. Again, when they did it I remember I tweeted when they let him take over this whole tear down, rebuild, tank, whatever you want to call it. I said, we're going to look back and say the guy picking the groceries, it's a nice idea. To me, it's easy to give away draft picks and trade your good players. That's the easy part. The hard part is, and I think to your point, Dave, and I read a ton of your articles, and everybody should check out your article. You talked about Tua and stuff in the Sun Sentinel. It was great. I think part of the problem is he changed with the wind. Like, whatever the coach, he never had a conviction on anything. There was never a plan. It's like, what are the blue chip prospects? Like, a lot of the times, we as a fan base, I think we evaluate players in a vacuum. We think Zach Sealer is better than Zach Sealer is around the league. But the Washington Redskins got two guys better than Zach Sealer. You know what I mean? Like Jordan Brooks. Even if these guys are playing well, we didn't draft blue chip guys, like guys who you said, Jason and Zach came in, you knew right away. And if you're going to rebuild to the draft, Dave, you got to have a few of those guys. You just can't have a bunch of B players and C players, right? I mean, I think the lack of conviction and the lack of direction, would you say that sums up the biggest mistake of Chris Grier? Not getting the impact guys. Instead of trading for him. We traded for him. We're supposed to draft him.
Yeah, and not only that, the not protecting the organization. That was big. The contracts they gave out. and then they redid Tyreek's contract. They redid Jalen Ramsey's contract when they didn't need to. And so they're compounding problems. And so, again, I thought somebody had to protect the organization, and he's in that role, and he didn't. So, I mean, to your point, the lack of, you would hope at some point, who's the next Hall of Famer for the Dolphins? I mean, we're going to go from Zach to I'm Cameron. I'm talking timeline here. I'm not talking Richmond Webb.
Zach. I mean, there's nothing recently that comes up. Tyreek, you wouldn't consider he's a Hall of Famer, but would you consider that's more of a chief, right? Tyreek Hill. But you were supposed to. Your plan was, I thought, to drop those guys, not trade for them. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying. I mean, it's not a failure because they didn't find a Hall of Famer. But my point is, there's no great talent.
Would be nice.
Yeah, it would have been nice.
We're not asking a Hall of Famer or even All Pro, a Pro Bowler. And shout out to over 115 people we have here, guys. Come over to YouTube. We're with Dave Hyde, South Florida Sun Sentinel columns, talking Dolphins, Tua, everything here. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe button. I want to talk something about Mike before I forget. I want to get your opinion on ours. I think people talk about, well, look, it's good. Mike hasn't lost a team. I think both things could be true here, Dave. They like him. They're in elevated positions, and they like the environment they're in. Therefore, they play for Mike, right? And they play for their careers. I think if they don't like you, kind of like Philbin or Gase, and you'll see it on the field. But I think they like Mike. I think they like I said, I think of Jordan Brooks being the leader of this team. I don't think on I know I got criticized for this, but I don't think on a Super Bowl team like Jordan Brooks is your best player, leader of the defense kind of guy. And he's in that role here. It's what you probably dream of. And it's South Florida. I just think both things are true. That's not my issue with Mike is, does he have the fabric to be a head coach? Can he lead 53 guys, not just 7 or 8 on the offense? Do you agree that just because they play for him doesn't necessarily mean he's the right guy for the job? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. Look, guys they have their own careers to think about, first of all. But the only time I've really seen a team turn on a coach real hard was Cam Cameron, where you had a veteran group of defenders, Vonnie Holiday and Zach, and you go down the list of veterans there who knew how a team should be run, and Cam Cameron didn't run it that one. By midseason, they were done. By the end of Adam Gay's, guys were tired of him, but it was mutual. Adam was tired of this team too. So, look, Mike's competent. He, as I said, he's very innovative on offense, and that keeps people coming back for more. The question is direction. And to me, really, the thing, the first few years, and he started to change this year a little. His idea was to have a culture. His culture was everybody comfortable. I want everybody to be comfortable. Everybody be my friend, my buddy. You want money? You get paid. You don't want to run wind sprints? That's fine. That's kind of old fashioned. And I'm not saying, I'm not drawing the line at wind sprints. I'm just saying, it was a culture of comfort for a few years. And it's changed a little more this year. But that kind of thinking works well if you're an assistant coach. You can buddy up to the players. You can say, as Mike said, as other assistants have said, I'll help you get your second contract. Let's work together. We'll get your second contract. As a head coach, you're not thinking of the second contract. You're thinking of pushing your assistant coach and pushing that player to get maximum ability in a game. And so it's really nice you're buddies with all the players, or the handful of players you want to be. But how did that work out with Jalen Ramsey and Tyreek? And those were the two guys who were late for practice last year and showed you up and really caused a real problem inside the team. So, the case for keeping Mike is he's learned his lessons. That would be it. Now, is he a leader of men? Is he is he the guy you want to be, directing the whole team and not just the offense. That type of stuff that's another matter.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard the same thing. I kind of heard he's fear of that damn Dan Campbell thing, where maybe on his second try, Mike's going to be really good, and why not? Let's keep it here. Which I don't know. I don't know how true that is, but that's something I heard. But
you'd have to get a second try, though. That's hard.
Yeah, you got to get the second try. Let's see if Flo gets it. That's going to be tough. All right, let's get into Tua, man, because you got a great article. You mentioned a lot of things I agree with, and this is something, Dave, I got heat about probably 6-8 weeks ago. We did an episode, broke down the film, what he wasn't doing. Something wasn't right. I looked at Tua, and if you look at his numbers, even the things he was doing well, he's not doing well. His QBR rating, which I don't know if the fans, the listeners don't know the difference. QBR is that ESPN stat where it incorporates like rushing, situations, sacks. Quarterback rating is just like the official NFL statistic that has like passing, touchdowns, interceptions, yards per attempt, simple stuff. But either way, his QBR rating in 2023, he was 10th in the league at 61.5. Last year, 15 at 57.1. This year, he's 28th at 40.0. And then the quarterback rating, which everybody's more familiar with, he was 7th in 23 and 24 at 98.7 and 101.4. This year, again, 28th and 85.9. Dave, he's clearly looks uncomfortable. The zip, the mobility, I got a couple theories. What is your theory on what's going on with Tua? Because he's not the same guy.
Yeah, no, physically something, and he's talked about his ankles injuries in Alabama have a problem. He had the hip injury at the end of last year. Is that, causing problems with his mechanics and throwing? Because he doesn't have, he obviously never had a fastball by NFL standards, but he had a capable arm. And now you look at some of his throws. I mean, he's at the 37 last week, and he's thrown into the end zone, and it was on an arc. He threw in a double coverage. The only way to complete that pass, which Dan Marino might be able to complete it in his prime, was to just be on a rope, and that thing went on a arc, and it was like the safety
fun.
It was like waiting under it, like center fielder. So and even the one that was called back, the one that they went to replay later, was an interception or not an interception, that was another softball. So you do that, and well, with Tua, my thought has always been his quarterback rating is everything he is, because you're not getting any running out of him. You're not getting any chaos plays out of him. Like the third down where he came up a half a yard short or whatever. That's, he had the open field, and he looked like he was running in concrete there, and he's never. That's never been his game for a lot of reasons. Obviously, the concussion, but even before that, even at Alabama, he was never a runner or could run. So I think with Tua, you always knew he had limitations, mobility, limitations, just making chaos plays, limitations with his arm. But he when he had great games, accuracy, anticipation, vision. So I think what's happened, from my view, his limitations are becoming even more pronounced and hedging out some of those things that he could do well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That one play and that one interception he threw, was that the one? It was after a turnover, right? The strip sack.
Yeah.
And he had Waller wide open, I believe, under that play underneath. But he never looked anywhere else. That's where he was going. And you said it to me, that game really magnified when I watched it, Dave, is, man, what a special quarterback. Like, I call them aircraft carriers. The Allens, these guys, you need one or two plays. Even though they won, I mean, if you saw the Olave, that ball went right through his hands.
Yeah.
The game would have been over. We would have lost. You need one or two plays. And you said the run, too. Make a little juke moves, go forward, take a hit on the side, and you have to make those plays. And I made a strong statement, about a couple months ago. If you can't do that, and mentally it seems like he's not afraid, but he's jittery back there, maybe you shouldn't be playing the position. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, but you can see it out there with him. And, and I do think it's the hip. I remember when he came out, they said, 5 or 8 years? He might have that kind of spend. You see it, Dave. And I think you're right. He doesn't have a lot of juice in that tank. And if his mechanics aren't lined up, it's you're seeing what you're seeing in the product of the field. So, yeah, I don't know. I used to think with everything around him good, he could take you somewhere. Now, Dave, I'm not sure. Are you at that point with him? You're not sure if he even in a San Francisco style Brock Purdy situation, can he do it? Do you have that confidence level in him?
No, I mean, not if what we're seeing over the last, much of this year, but especially over the last stretch here, is who he is. If that's all, they're in trouble because they want to bring him back because of the contract. That's that's the horse putting the cart before the horse. You want the talent to be pulling you, and then the contract's with it, But now we got to bring him back as a contract. But you look at again, if this is who he is, and it doesn't get any better, they're in trouble.
Yeah, and you said the contract. How about maybe we should have gave him the contract? Who was responsible for that? I know we heard Brandon Shore was kind of against it and all that stuff, but you never really know. You never really know the story, right?
Yeah, I will say this. Remember, Tua said Mike pounded the table for him. There was Mike's mistake. Yeah. When Mike was hired, his job, besides winning, was to find out who Tua was, right? Because he had the whole "who is he" after Brian Flores, and nobody believed it. And Mike did a masterful job of that. You saw who Tua was, at his best, what he could be. The mistake was made that, he can be a lot better than this. We can take him, give him $50 million, and instead of making him earn that, ride the last year of his before you had to give him the contract. They just gave it to him. And so now there's a lot of conjecture over who was. We know Mike was pushing for it. Somebody was pushing against it. But the one good thing that Brandon Shore did in this was he made the exit ramp after 3 years. You look at all the other contracts for these other quarterbacks hitting $50 million after 4 years.
Yeah.
So, look, when you need an out after 2 years, that says you shouldn't have given them the contract. I mean, you're in trouble. But at least they have it out after 3 years.
Yeah, and that's because this 26 offseason is kind of funky. This is more probably going to go younger, probably going to lose some more veterans, probably going to be in a little bit of cap hell, I guess, or dead money, depending on what you do. So, I mean, I could see the course where they go, yeah, let's run it back one more year and then 27. But I don't even want to waste another year. I'm tired of wasting years, this whole merry-go-round. But you think that's maybe what's going on? Maybe let's run it back one more year because
here's my question. If they finish with 8 or 9 wins,
right.
Very, very, very possible at this point, right?
Yeah.
Do they convince themselves that, hey, look at what we did in the second half of the year. That's who we are. And let's run it back. And we'll add some young pieces. But, we found something here at the end of the year, and we can carry that into next season. And I think that's what they're going to convince themselves, that we're a pretty good team. And so
it's no matter, it seems no matter what happens, the dial just gets right back to the middle. Mediocre. No matter what. We start 9-3, we're still mediocre. We start 2-6.
It's the magnetic pole. That magnetic pole.
Yeah,
they get offline a little, and it goes right back.
I call it the merry-go-round of mediocrity. It stops. You spin the wheel, it stops that mediocre. You just can't. We can't go either way, and the only way to do it is. I do think Ross's age plays in a factor why he doesn't want to blow the whole thing up. I mean, you think that plays a factor too? Do you think Ross knows what he wants to do, or he doesn't know yet? He's going to wait. Do you already think he knows his mind's made up?
Stephen Ross?
Yeah.
I think I knows what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Okay, he wants to bring everybody back. And again, we've gone over that.
Yeah.
But I think if something, if they go out and they look awful or the next to the end of the year, or the question is going to be Tua, and then that's the big question to me, because if you're bringing Tua back, you're bringing Mike back, and then you're bringing Champ Kelly, and again, but does that mean do you try to find another quarterback? I mean, I think you have to. The question is how if you're drafting 13th, which you can find a quarterback. Look at, I tell you what, New Orleans quarterback
he's got something to him. He's got something to him.
He has very little help, and I who knows how he's going to be. But in his fourth start, he competed. He made some plays. He was a second round pick. I guess what I'm saying is you'll be able to find somebody. The question is if Mike and Champ Kelly have 1 year to prove it, are they going to take a chance on a young quarterback? Does that help them, or does it slow them down? Does it help them say, hey, we can develop this guy? Or I don't know.
Did it help Brian Daboll and the Giants? It seemed like even they got there, you got to win games, right? It's fascinating for a team that never is mediocre. There's so many fascinating decisions to be made, because again, they have like 3 or 4, 5, 6 paths to go. And this is not a good. We do a lot of draft stuff. This is not a great. I know everybody talks about the Mendoza kid, but this is not a huge quarterback. But again, it's who's picking the groceries, not about where you pick. That's why the tanking thing doesn't matter. It's the Bill Zito. How do you find that, right? I look what it did for the Panthers. I know it's the perfect example. The owner made the right hire. That's what Stephen Ross has. It's a secret sauce, Dave, and he has to be able to do it, right? Like,
you got to find that one guy who will change the temperature of the room when he walks in. The Mickey Harrison did it with Pat Riley.
Yeah,
it was an obvious. Pat Riley was obvious. It was just how do you get him? Bill Zito wasn't obvious, and it was a leap of faith on Vinny Viola's part, and. The Bill Zito is like Midas, and everything he touches is coated with gold now. So that's where the Dolphins are. They haven't been able to find that one guy who, and because to me that 60% of a GM's job is getting the quarterback. Once you get that, look at Josh Allen. Look what he has around him. He has okay talent, but nothing. But every time they go out on the field.
They got a chance.
It was like Dan Marino for the Dolphins for years.
When you got a franchise quarterback, you pretty much circle 9 or 10 wins at bottom. Yeah. And look at New England, man. I hate to say it, but the May kid, he's playing out of his mind. You hit that, and everything just seems to go easier. Shout out to over the 170 people we have here. Make sure you guys come on to YouTube. We got Dave Hyde. Dave, what do you think Tua and Mike's relationship's like? Do you think it's – because I remember early in the season, I saw the Pelissero reports, almost like Mike Scamp was kind of trying to distance himself from Tua, tear apart. Do you think the relationship is as kind of intact, or do you think Mike knows, okay, I'm not hitching to this wagon because I kind of see he's not the guy here anymore. Like he's not the guy we thought he was.
That's a hard one. I've wrestled with that. I think it's still a really good relationship. Tua knows who helped get him paid and really changed his career. And Mike falls in love with players. Now, there's a little more tough love, Mike McDaniel's version of tough love this year when, after the last game, he said, we didn't get good play out of the quarterback is basically what he said. And so, look, there's no hiding it. Sometimes there's no point in hiding it when you didn't get good quarterback play. But it's not like Mike's going to come out and trash Tua, nor should he. Yeah. That's not his job to build him up. And so I think they have a good relationship. But when the quarterback isn't playing well, it certainly makes things a little more tense.
Yeah. another thing with Tua is you've been to you have the privilege of covering him and interviewing him. Has he changed personality-wise to you, or has he been the same guy, or is he a little different now? More in a leadership role and almost, because he has those comments that kind of turn people off. Have you noticed a change in him besides physically with the tattoos and the braids and all that stuff? But have you noticed a change covering a guy? Because you cover a guy for a certain amount of years. Is there a change, or is he about the same guy?
No, the thing I've always appreciated him, he'll tell you what he thinks. I mean, I remember Brian Flores was here and they were chasing Deshaun Watson, and I asked him how's he taking all this? There's a lot going on behind the scenes here, and you were drafted to be there. And he said the line, I don't feel not wanted. And so, okay. And so look, I've always thought, now he's said some odd things this year. The players only meeting without all the players showing up. And, we can go down, there's a list of them. I'm sure you know them all.
Yeah.
But so, at some point he's got to be more responsible for his words. And I think, like, after this game, you'd ask him every answer that would start with, I have to do better. I got it. It's on me. It's not none of this we stuff, or I'll be interested to see who shows up for videos on Tuesday or any of that stuff. So
that was my favorite.
He's learning, but the question is, why did he have to learn some of this stuff? So
I think you're seeing a leader who's not really a natural born leader, as everybody thought, being put in a leadership position, and you're seeing his flaws, and he's learning on the job. That's my opinion of it. And so you think there's no chance, like if I say, because to me, I'd rip the Band-Aid off, because I don't know about you, Dave. I'm not sure if you decide you want to go get a young quarterback. Let's say you get a new GM, you want to get a young quarterback. Is Tua the guy, the Alex Smith guy? I'm not sure. He's a little bit of a distraction. Would you consider, even trying to trade him, take a less of a hit, eat some of the money, or even taking the dead money hit, kind of like Denver did? I mean, they turned around. Look, they got Bo Nix, but you got to find, even though he's not playing great this year, but they built that team really well with Sean Payton. Would you consider? Do you think it's a low possibility? You said they want to bring him back. Do you think it's even a consideration, or would you consider it?
Oh yeah, it is a consideration.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying they want to.
Yeah.
Now, if they get to the end of the year and they say we cannot make this work,
yeah.
Then we'll see what happens then. But I do know they want to make it work. So, but I'm with you. If they get to the end of the year and this is what it is, if it plays out like this to the end of the year, and they have no belief that it can get better, I Russell Wilson them. I do what Sean Payton did and say we got to start now. If you do that, then you're like you said, you're ripping the Band-Aid off. Does Steve Ross want to do that? I don't. I think that would be, again, if this is who Tua is to the end, that's what I would do.
I agree.
But I don't have a name to go out and say,
yeah,
should get. That's their business. That's what they should have been doing the last 3 years. I remember talking to a GM once who said, in my desk, I have a list of the top 3 coaches I want to get. If I have to go get a coach, and I'm always updating the list. I'm always saying, if I'm Steve Ross over the last 5 years, or Tom Garfinkel or somebody in the franchise, when I'm going to league meetings or combines, I'm picking people's brains. Who's the best GM out there? Because you don't hear of Chris Lake of Tampa Bay or Les Snead, or you can go down the list of the great Howie Roseman. I mean, Howie Roseman is great now, but Philadelphia didn't even want him, like in 2016.
Yeah, there was a run there. Yep.
So these are names that these guys work in the shadows. Those guys are well known now. What I'm saying is the guy you're going to hire is probably in the shadows, and you would have to ferret information over a long time to figure out who's best.
And does Steve Ross have that guy that he can trust to help him make that decision? That's another question, right?
Yeah.
Let's get some of the chat questions. Colin Prince says, "Hey Dave, going back to 2023 pre-injuries, do you think this team was a Super Bowl team pre-injuries in 23.
23, I thought they had a shot. Yeah, going into December, and they beat. That was the year they beat Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then they lost to Buffalo, and this is where
that big Baltimore win, and everybody thought we were 9-3.
Yeah, and they played Buffalo. If I'm getting my years right, Buffalo was without their best players on each tier in their defense. I think Daquan Jones was out, and Matt Milano was out.
Yeah,
Darius White was out. And so when I hear the Dolphins say, "Well, we were just too beat up that," no, you weren't too beat up that game. You were too beat up by the time you played Kansas City and in the playoff. The defense was, you lost 5 of 11 starters, but your offense only scored 7 points that game, so it really was irrelevant, the injuries. Yes, I thought that was their year, really. And if you have a criticism of Mike, is that they didn't do stuff on that offense that we mentioned earlier. Those things, they were good against mediocre or bad defenses, but the top defenses they couldn't solve. And maybe it's unsolvable. Maybe you need a quarterback with a big arm or something like that. But I thought they had a really good shot that year. I don't know, Super Bowl, but going deep in the playoffs.
That was our closest shot. We thought we might actually had it. Beach says, question, is having a soft training camp a reason for a slow start the past 2 years?
Say that again?
Having a soft training camp a reason for the slow start the past 2 years? Thanks, Beach.
I 3 years ago they started off well, I believe, and I've done the research on this, and I can't pull it off the top of my head without pulling out my media guide or the records, and it really wasn't. They had the slow start last year. Tua got hurt, and you had the mess of backup quarterback. And this year, this year they actually had I wouldn't say it was a soft training camp. It wasn't hard, but it certainly wasn't what it was the previous years. So I think it gets. My point is that is more the culture of the team. We're not they can talk about being a tough team and talk about, when the season's on the line. But, I go to the Florida Panthers, for instance, and this is really a bad year to bring this up because Alexander Barkov got hurt on one of these hard practices. But Paul Maurice, since he's been here and before, his first 5 practices are really hard. And his point is this is the team we're going to be a hard team, a tough team, and we're going to define it right away, who we are right from the start. So when we need to get that, they know where we've been. So some of it's psychology, some of it's defining the identity of the team, I think. But I never saw that in with the Dolphins in the previous few years with Mike.
Yeah. Last question, Cap. Is the weather going to be a factor moving forward for Uno? Well,
I don't think cold is a factor. Everybody's cold. Now, if it's cold and wind, that's a factor. If it's cold and wind and a good opponent, that's a factor. But just straight up cold,
just a good opponent might be.
Yeah, right. I mean that's everybody pointing out. Look what they do in January. Well, they
lost to Buffalo. Kansas City, Baltimore.
Right. They played Pittsburgh in a playoff game, and it was cold. I remember. I don't think cold is that. Is the line you draw, and I get we do. Oh, look at the temperature, and you can, but windy is a real issue in cold. And then, like I said, that we talked about the playing a good team in that at home on the road is difficult.
Yeah, I almost wonder maybe if they keep this kind of again, I don't know if they keep this trend of running, kind of playing off the play action, but building the running game with the Brunskill stuff and the concept. They might actually, in the defense plays, they might actually be better suited playing like this against like the Jets. And I think they play a good team in the court. I think the bottom line is a good team. But like a Jets team or something like that, if they continue this, and again, they've been getting the lead. Now, Mike's different when he plays from behind. That's another thing that we don't talk about. They've been playing in the league. But do you agree maybe this new kind of identity, I don't know if we want to call it identity yet, but this new kind of, we're going to run the ball first here, feed our best player, kind of in the defense playing like this kind of suits maybe a little bit more than that running gun kind of ready to show on turf stuff in January.
Yeah, and it is easy. Look, they've had the lead all these games. So it's easy, as you said, to stick with this game plan and to make that your quasi-identity or whatever. But let's see if they fall behind 10 points and see where they go then.
Yeah. What do you think of the rookie class so far? And do you think it's gotten better? I'm kind of iffy on it. I think Jordan Phillips has been the best guy. Again, I don't see any blue chip guys, but like it's becoming better. I'm seeing more flashes out of Grant and stuff. Jonah still worries me, but
he's been better.
Yeah.
First couple months were, you usually say the idea is you give them to rookies the midseason before you even really start talking about them. Now, I'm a believer of Bill Parcells. Puppies bite when they're young.
I love that.
The great ones usually are great from the start. Whether they're consistently great, they flash, and we really haven't seen much flash from this class. Doesn't mean you won't get 4 or 5 starters out of it, which would be a good rookie class. But we'll see where it goes. You see the development of the defensive linemen. Biggers, he's had a couple nice play. And like I was watching a film, he beat a double team. Now, why they were double team, it was kind of, I'm sure it was just a scheme on that play, but they were double teaming him. He beat it, got to the quarterback for half a sack. That's a pretty nice play for a rookie defensive tackle. But yeah, Phillips is probably the name who's been consistent, I guess would be the word so far.
Yeah, I've seen Grant. The flashes, though, you see the ceiling have been coming on. And Jonah's getting better. This is a good foundation draft. Like, you don't have to – if you put this together with you get a couple blue chippers, you had a good couple-year run. And, I agree. I think Phillips has been, for a guy that age, to be that – it's incredible, his strength. And Biggers, I remember we had Kimbo Beaucamper on, I think in the preseason. He's the one who told me, he goes, watch out for that Biggers, man. He's and Bo knows a thing or two about defense, right? I mean,
yeah, somewhere in training camp, the light went on for Biggers and I'm not out there every day like the beat writers are. I'm at training camp maybe 2 or 3 times a week, but I never noticed him. Then all of a sudden, a couple practices, you notice them, and so it was like at some point, and I haven't talked to him. I don't know, something clicked, and so I thought he'd get more playing time earlier. Now I don't know. I haven't broken down what decisions they would have had to make to put him on the field, but it's good. This is really when the season was kaput there. This is really what they should be doing. They're doing it. They're letting the young guys play and progress, and you're seeing some good development there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm hoping they lock up. Has A-Chain surprised you? I know we knew he was good. Has he surprised you this year, how good he's been between the tackles? Because to me, he's took it to another level. I hope they lock him up. Do you think they lock him up? And how surprised? How surprised? Are you even a little surprised how good he's been?
I'm look, he was 3rd round pick. Every general manager is surprised how good he's been. Yeah. I mean, he's as electric as anybody in the league when he has the ball and consistent. And the surprise to me is how durable he's been. So lock him up. Yeah, I mean, that's an easy decision. The question then is what's the contract? And I point to James Cook in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Well,
4 for $48.
Or for 48, I think a guarantee of like 30 or something like that.
Give him 4 for 52 if that's what it takes.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of the framework you
yeah. I agree with you. We said that,
and there you go.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's look at this Jets game coming up. You expect a win versus Jets, and these next 5 wins. If I say, where do they go here? Do you think they go 3-2, something like that? How do you? Because I mean, it's interesting. You got the the Pitt Steelers, the Bengals, Patriots who finish. I'm missing somebody along the way there. How do you? Bucks. Yeah. How do you feel? Like, what do you see? 3-2. That's my guess here. How do you look at this next 5 games here with the Dolphins?
Yeah, I'd say 3-2 sounds right. The question, I think they beat the Jets.
Yeah.
I think they beat the Steelers. The way the Steelers are looking.
Yeah.
Very vulnerable, running the ball on them, which is what the Dolphins would love to do. The Bills just ran right through them, and so the question to me is like the Bucks game is who's healthy on the Bucks. I meant to look today. Does Mike Evans have a chance to come back, or where are we?
They've opened the window.
Yeah.
I get so confused. Whatever that means, the window.
Yeah. Well, they have like 21 days to make.
Yeah.
So the health of the Bucks, because their defense really hasn't been that good, but obviously they're a step up from the Saints or the Washington or something like that. So, and then I'm going to assume the Patriots game means something to the Patriots. Even if it doesn't, I can't see Mike Vrabel. And they get a bye in the playoffs. Even then, I don't think he'd say, "Oh, this team is veteran enough. We're going to give it 3 weeks off," basically. So but obviously, if they're playing for something, it would mean more. So yeah, I'm with you. 3-2 sounds about right.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel is a guy I would love to get my hands on last year, but they made the decision. That's why they're making it again. We're just kicking the can down the road.
Well, just think of the last 2 years.
Peyton,
Harbaugh went to the Chargers, and Vrabel, and they were just sitting there.
And we lost Peyton, and
they were just waiting. They were just waiting for which team is going to hire them. And it's pretty rare you get guys who can step in and win at head coach like that.
Yeah. All right, we're wrapping it up here with Dave Hyde. We almost got 200 people in here. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Chat's active. Thank you so much. All right, we got a kind of a fun question here. We asked, but before I get to that, gut feeling. You can put the percentage McDaniel back, Tua back next year. If I say Dave, gut feeling.
Gut feeling, 70%.
They're back both.
70%, yeah.
All right, I'm 60-40, so I'm with you there.
Okay.
All right, Jason, Sarni, and I, we have a running thing here until Christmas. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
No. And
no.
No.
I got to send this to Jason because he's going to.
Yeah.
Jason has a long dialogue.
There's a long list of it, but I don't think Christmas when I think that movie. The setting was. I think
it's an action movie.
I think Hans Gruber and Nakatomi Plaza and terrorism and et cetera, et cetera. I don't think Christmas.
Oh, I can't wait to clip this and send it to him. And I say an action movie set in a Christmas kind of thing. But then somebody said if Die Hard's a Christmas movie, is Gremlins a Christmas movie? The list just I don't think of any of these as Christmas movies, but that would be funny. All right, Dave, I want to talk about you're an author, your book, and I want to announce here Finn's Faithful Podcast is giving away one of to one of our lucky listeners. So throughout this week, throughout our shows, comment in the comment section below, get in the chat. We'll pick one loyal listener and give out Dave's book, Still Perfect, The Untold Story of the 72 Miami Dolphins. So we're going to have a little contest and give that out. Dave, talk about your books, where they can find them, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, that was the first one I did. I loved getting to know all those guys, and even the one guy I didn't. What I liked about it was they're talking about excellence. So it's 30 years after their careers, and there were no secrets. They talked about everything that went on that year, everything about Shula and Greasy and playing in the Super Bowl and Jake Scott. And I remember the story. Jake Scott was the MVP. Why is he the MVP that year? Because Dick Schaap had the one vote. He was the the editor of Sport Magazine, and he had the vote. And he had a big night the night before. He fell asleep during the game, and the game's over. He looks up and he looks at the stats. Jake Scott has 2 interceptions. Well, he's the MVP. And every time Manny Fernandez, who supposedly has 17 tackles, sees Jake Scott, he goes, "How's my car? How's my car?" So
it's a great book. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. So there's that. I did a book. The other one, 1968 on Ohio State football. Really, it's about Woody Hayes and their national chair. I grew up in Columbus, and that was the first team that I followed. So I was kind of interested in doing this book on them. And then I did one with Jimmy Johnson called Swagger. Came out a couple years ago. So I know I actually did a coffee table book with Dan Marino. A lot of pictures, but it tells his story too. So that's enough advertising for me.
That's okay, man. I know more people should read it, and we're happy to be giving one away. People for the holiday season. We want to do something to thank the listeners throughout the year, and I said, you know what, you're coming on your book. We ordered it. We're going to give it out. So you have to be a subscriber to the channel. Subscribe throughout the week. For the next couple of weeks, be active in the chat. Be active in the comment section, and we'll pick one lucky winner, and we'll send you that book. It's a great book. Still Perfect, the untold story of the 1972 Miami Dolphins. Because we haven't had much since then. So learn the history, guys. Even if you weren't around there, learn the history. Dave, we've been over an hour. I can't thank you enough. This is like, it was such a good conversation. It's like talking to a buddy at a bar, and I pinch myself. I'm talking to Dave Hyde. So I hope I was good enough as a good host.
No, it's fun.
I appreciate it. And let everybody know what you got going on the Sentinel. Any articles, the Tua article, anything, what you got going, they can follow.
Yeah, no, nothing special other than, I'm going to, the game Sunday, but I'm doing some other stuff, other teams before that. So, but I'll be I'll be writing about the Dolphins on Sunday. And I think it should be, where are we at? 5 or 6 now? If this
4 or 5.
4 or 5. So this will be 5 or 6 wins. So we'll see where it goes.
Give me a score prediction. Dave Hyde, final score.
I think I got to remember what I predicted in the Sun Sentinel. So consistent. I think it was like 24-17, something like that.
Well, we'll change it. All right, Dave. Thank you, everybody. Thank everybody for joining us on this Wednesday night. Catch us on Saturday. We count down the game day. Sunday, live right after the game, post game. Make sure to subscribe and follow Mr. Dave Hyde. Dave, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. As always, guys, stay faithful and stay safe. We're out.